welcome to my foolish kitchen. And today's quasi-experiment is I have a couple of baskets which I want to do something to, and I figured I'd share. Now this is a willow basket that I use to gather in my for my garden, and I mean essentially there are probably basket freaks online who are going to say, you can't do that. I'm like, this basket has essentially no inherent value except that it's a tool. But I want to share that the way to clean baskets, because if you soak them and give them a shower and unless they dry immediately, they tend to split and dry over time. This is a basket that I think has historical value. I have not been able to identify it yet, but it's a little brittle on both ends, and I think I'm going to try repairing it just a smidge. And I'm looking for some advice on how to preserve it until I can identify it. I think it has something to do with the textile industry, but I haven't figured out that yet. So essentially this one I wouldn't do much to. It's hanging in the kitchen. Well, it's actually resting on a shelf in the kitchen to try to keep it moist. So it's not any place that's going to have any extremes. I've brushed it and cleaned it off as much as I can, but I'm looking for advice on rehydrating it somehow. So basically this I'm going to put back up on it's actually resting in another basket on a shelf. And this one, like I said, is one I use all the time, and right now it's dirty because I just pulled in the last batch of herbs from the garden. The way to clean these, essentially vacuum them if you think that they're extra dusty, and it'll get in between all the the slats. Now this one has some herbs and stuff, so I use brushes. This one's a little too stiff right now, but this will work just fine to get everything out. I did probably one time or another, rinse it if the plants are extra dirty, but don't soak it. So like I said, you can spray it in the shower, just don't submerge it for any length of time, because what happens is the wood will swell and crack and break and not like it too much. So that is as clean as I'm going to make it, and that's a little dirty. There we go. Had to run out and get some freebie newspapers from the recycling bin. And while I was out there, I grabbed this because I'm going to try to use this to paint out of, oiled linseed oil, because that way I can not waste it all and put it back in the container. There we go. I've got a couple of chip brushes. This may take a while. So I'm surprised if you fast on this. I think this will work nicely. This one I would have done a little bit differently. If you saw what I did, I just painted the boiled linseed oil right on it, which is not normally what you would do with furniture. But my theory was that it would just, all the excess would just fall off, would just drip off, because I had this outside for a day. Oh, poor squirrels thought it was a feeder, a new feeder. Anyways, the willow bark is not very absorbent, so it was not a step I would have taken. I would have indeed cut the boiled linseed oil with a thinner, you know, with whatever you would normally use, paint thinner or denatured alcohol, whatever, and do that initial coat. It might speed up the process, and then when that's dry, continue with a different coat. But it would take, even with that prep method, it's still going to take a couple of days to dry. So what I did was, after it was finished dripping outside and the weather turned cold, I brought it in, parked it in the warm kitchen, and just left it alone. Every once in a while I'd flip it over. I did make a point of brushing it over to make sure there were no, when it was still damp, to make sure there were no, what we call holidays, no drips. And it was evenly coated. I can still see, you know, there's still a couple of, no, it's actually pretty good. I'm surprised. I'm very, very happy with this, because I really love this shaped basket. It's working well for me, and I want to continue to use it going forward. So, like I said, the bark is not as absorbent as the cut ends, but all my cut ends are nicely covered. And I think that by spring, this is just going to be perfect. But thank you for joining me on my foolish kitchen with my newest experiment. And I will try to at least do one video a month. My issue is that I have a couple of jobs going on, and the kitchen's not really set up for this, so I have to kind of do it over and over again. But one day, you know, I will have more to share with you. So thanks for tuning in.